In its pages, over 1 million people have found help in making sense of theodicy, the tension between belief in a good and loving God and the reality of suffering in our world. 40 years after his death, and 70 years after he wrote the book, it continues to provide some of the best answers to this age-old dilemma. I have given the book to dozens of people. It inspired me to write what I view as a companion to this book, similar in length and in focus. Why? Making sense of God's will. I'm grateful that Abingdon is publishing this new edition of Dr. Weatherhead's work. I hope and pray that this little book is as helpful to you as it has been to me. Adam Hamilton. Preface. Here are 5 talks on the will of God, given to my City Temple congregation. My friends, the Reverend Edgar C. Barton and the Reverend Leslie F. Church, thought their publication might help others to clarify their minds on a subject that is specially relevant to these days of loss and sorrow. I have left them in the direct style in which they were written down, and have not attempted to disguise the fact that they were prepared as sermons. L.D.W. Chapter 1. God's Intentional Will. The phrase, the will of God, is used so loosely, and the consequence of that looseness to our peace of mind is so serious, that I want to spend some time in thinking through with you the whole subject. There is nothing about which we ought to think more clearly, and yet I sometimes think there is nothing about which men and women are more confused. Let me illustrate the confusion. I have a good friend whose dearly loved wife recently died. When she was dead, he said, "Well, I must just accept it. It is the will of God." But he is himself a doctor, and for weeks he had been fighting for her life. He had called in the best specialists in London. He had used all the devices of modern science, all the inventive apparatus by which the energies of nature can be used to fight disease. Was he all that time fighting against the will of God? If she had recovered, would he not have called her recovery the will of God? Yet surely we cannot have it both ways. The woman's recovery and the woman's death cannot equally be the will of God in the sense of being his intention. Let me illustrate the confusion again. "My boy was killed 10 days ago in one of the raids on Berlin," said a woman, "but I am trying to bow to the inscrutable will of God." But was that the will of God? I should have said it was the will of the enemy, of Hitler, if you like, of the evil forces we were fighting. Are they then the same thing? Here is a mother wringing her hands and weeping in anguish because her baby is dead. Her minister stands by her, longing to comfort her, but though his presence and prayers may offer consolation, he knows only too well that when the storm is raging, it is too late to talk about the anchor that should have been put down before the storm began. What I mean is that it is so important that we should try to think clearly before disaster falls upon us. If we do, then in spite of all our grief, we have a philosophy of life that steadies us as an anchor steadies a ship. If we do not, the storm is so furious that little can be done until it has abated. If only the minister could have injected into the mind of the woman his own belief about God. But that, alas, is impossible. In her anguish, this is what the woman said: "I suppose it is the will of God, but if only the doctor had come in time, he could have saved my baby." You see the confusion of thought. If the